Game Collector here for Second Opinion Games, and today I show you a system very near and dear to my heart. It is the Turbo Duo. It does take the Hue cards and the CDs, and today I'm going to focus in on my top 10 CD games. Now I can't just limit myself to a top 10, even though I'm really going to try. So I'm going to talk about some games that are rather expensive, and we're just going to see which ones pan out to be the very, very best of the best. So, you know what? Let's start the video now.
Second Opinion Games.
Number 10, Exile, a Working Designs classic. This is an action RPG filled with 2D hack and slash levels, and you can even go into towns, talk to people, recruit people to fight with you, but in this game, they don't really fight with you. It's just your main assassin guy. One of the coolest things about this game is that it gives you a whole new perspective on the Crusades, because this is told through the eyes of a Muslim fighting against the Christians, which is something I didn't think I would like, but it's fascinating to see things from a different point of view. The whole experience isn't too long, the pacing is extremely fast, so if you like your RPGs extremely quick, well then this one's right up your alley. Number 9, Horror Story. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of Japanese games on this list because North America didn't get many games for this system, they mostly stayed in Japan. And Horror Story is a very clunky auto-scroller that I completely fell in love with. Mostly because you could play it 2-player with a friend, and also because of the Halloween aspect of it, where you're taking down all these different ghouls and ghosts, and there's tons of weapon power-ups dropping in, meaning it feels a little bit like a shooter, only you're on foot. So it's a walking shooter. You know, like Contra, but really chunky. Number 8, Chris's Adventure. At least I think that's what the game's called. You seem to play as a very young girl who's quite wealthy, with a long ponytail, short shorts, and she has to kill a whole lot of things and raid a lot of tombs. Boy, I wonder where the Lara Croft character came from anyway. But in this game, you don't have any guns. Instead, you have your knife. You can pick up orbs, and depending on which color orbs is what weapon you have as you play through. There is a time limit depending on how many days to clear each level, and the days seem to go unbelievably fast, especially when there's platforms that you have to time your jumps perfectly, but that's only in the very beginning of the game. And the boss battles are unbelievably cool. This is a must-play for everyone who loves the TurboGrafx, but sadly, there's not many copies out there, and I haven't even seen it on many ROM lists. And if you wonder why all the games look kind of funny, it's because I'm playing on real hardware. Number 7, Facade Amore. This is a game that's sort of a cross between Castlevania and Ghosts and Goblins, and for that, I am all in. If you press down on the action button, you have a projectile, assuming that you picked up the right power-up to go with it, and you have a sword/lance thing that you can sort of do a stabby in any direction, and it's not just about making it to the right. You have to pick up red gems by killing enemies, and then when you have enough of them, a boss will appear, who tends to be a beautiful female. Also, when you get hit, you end up in your underwear, and when you get hit again, instead of turning into a bag of bones, you go completely naked. Of course, Japan is super classy, and when you take out the boss battles that are also females in this game, well, the chances are that they'll also be completely naked. Anyway, this game is really cool. Number 6, Browning. Another hard to find game, even though this one was very cheap when I picked it up, like $5, and it's a very short game where you play as a mech just running to the right, shooting everything. Double tap to change directions in the air. You could also sort of fly, but you can overheat your engines and then you're stuck being on the ground. This game is all about timing. Taking on the boss battles when you have very little energy is gonna lead to a game over really quick. So you can recharge your shields by standing still or just avoiding getting hit in general, but then the time limit is gonna run out, so it's always a balance between how much time do I have and how much damage can I deal out. Also, there's a lot of chatter in the background, and it's all in English so we can fully understand and play this game. And finally, the music here is amazing. You probably heard it once or twice. As a matter of fact, I think you might hear it at the beginning of almost every one of my videos. Number 5, Monster Lair. This takes place in the Adventure Island series of games, and you're always eating fruit, otherwise you will die. There's also power-ups around every corner, but they only last for a couple of seconds before you go back to your pea shooter. it does seem a bit blocky and chunky, but that's how TurboGrafx games are, and that's how they're meant to be. The music here is fairly good. After you clear a platforming stage, you'll move on to a shooter stage, which is also what is all about the TurboGrafx. I just love how they meld both of them together with the great CD quality audio, and this is fantastic. It's also extremely long, which means that I usually get bored and put it down before I ever finish the game, which leads me to always come back to it and keep on playing. Number 4, the 4-in-1 Super CD. They just took the regular HuCard games and put them all on one CD. This was a pack-in title for it. You have Bonk's Adventure, which is a game where Bonk, a cute little guy, gets eaten by a dinosaur and comes out as poop. You have Bonk's Revenge, a graphically upgraded version of Bonk. It's the sequel, and it has collectibles everywhere. And of course, you have Gates of Thunder, and you even get to hear Bonk himself voice the whole Gates of Thunder line. I absolutely love that, and this is one of the best shooters ever made. And finally, if you put in a super secret code that everyone knows about, you can play Bomberman with up to 5 people, I think. I never had that many friends to play with, but it's Bomberman, and it's guaranteed to be a good time. Number 3, Bonk 3. This is the CD version of the game, and Bonk has never looked better. Also, the music and the sound effects are freaking amazing. And what I love the most about Bonk is that you can play 2-player with a friend. You could also take some candy to grow really huge, or some other candy to shrink really small. That's right, Mario completely ripped off this game. I just wish the controls were as tight as Mario, but as it is, it's still one of the best games to play with a friend, if you both enjoy action platformers. Number 2, Buster Brothers. This is the arcade version of the game, which means you could bring along a friend for a 2-player action, which is how you probably should be playing the game if you want the true ending. You start on one side of the world and you end up in Easter Island trying to pop bubbles with your harpoon gun. Sometimes you could pick up a gun itself. I don't know why you wouldn't just start with that, but these guys are really into harpoons. The music is beautiful again, and I love the puzzle aspect of the game. Pretty much every single Buster Brothers game I like, other than the original Game Boy one, and it all started for me right here with my Turbo Duo. It's time for some honorable mentions from games that I just didn't feel like putting in their own video, like Mega Man, which is the NES version of Mega Man, but with updated CD quality music. Someone just gave me this. I don't even know how I got it. Valis 4, which is sadly all in Japanese, but you can figure it out. You switch between 3 different characters by hitting the start button. One has a double jump, one has a slide, and the other guy's a giant tank who could walk over spikes. This game is unbelievably cool, and probably I should have put it on the top 10. You also have Ready Blasters, one of those expensive and hard to come by games where you can play as 1 or 2 different people, and you just beat up a whole lot of people. And you hold the one button to charge, and then you release an attack, which might be as good as your standard punch. Who the heck knows? It's kind of cool. I don't recommend anyone spending over $20 on this though. And finally, Sopia, which is a shooter that feels an awful lot like Legendary Wings, but really not quite. It's also super hard, and also makes me feel like I'm playing a little bit of Lords of Thunder, but it's really not nearly as good as that game. Okay, back to my number 1 pick for the Turbo Duo. Castlevania Rondo of Blood. This game is a masterpiece all the way through. It's short enough that you could sit down and play through the entire game in one sitting, yet long enough that if you want to get into each level and rescue all of the girls and find all the different branching paths and defeat all the bosses, you have a huge experience here. Falling down pits don't kill you, they just sort of branch you in another direction, most of the time. Doing a backflip to avoid getting hit is key here, except for when you're playing as Maria Renard, who is a tank as she runs through the game, blowing apart everyone with her doves of war. Also, there's some item crashes here. This whole game is a masterpiece, down from its graphics, down to the little pixels of the girl blinking her eyes every once in a while. All the sprites here are beautifully done. The music is some of the best ever. And if this game isn't the best Castlevania game, it certainly should be on anyone's top 10 list of best 16-bit games of all times, if not their top 10 games of all times. And it really is that good. And it is by far the very best game for the TurboGrafx 16 and the Turbo Duo. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching.
Gate of Thunder.
Stage 2 covered.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it because I got to play the Turbo Duo. If you guys have not had a chance to play a Turbo CD game, what are you waiting for? I know most of them are big and chunky and clunky, but they really are a heck of a lot of fun, especially Castlevania. So I want to know what your favorite game was for the system, or maybe even better yet, your second favorite game. So let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button, make sure you subscribe, and until later, I will see you again, guys.